Now, our next event has been accredited by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, as well as being a qualifying event for the Academy Awards. That's right, friends, I'm talking about the prestigious St Kilda Film Festival. And this can actually get you the eligibility for consideration in the Short Film Awards as well as the documentary sections of the Oscars. Now, this homegrown film festival has been around since 1983 and has been showcasing all different kinds of works. It is produced and presented by the City of Port Phillip and encourages every kind of genre, including drama, comedy, documentary, animals and digital media. Now, the film director himself, Paul Harris, has in fact been at the helm for over 15 years and has graciously accepted to have a chat with us today. So let's go have a chat with him and find out all about what makes this festival so iconic and prestigious. Well, Paul, thanks for joining us here for Bite Size Pictures. It's such a delight to have you on the show.
I agree. But thanks for your interest.
That's all good, not a problem. Wow.
We need all the oxygen we can get.
You guys have been around since 1983.
Correct.
So how has this festival, how did it all kind of start back in the day, and how has it changed and diversified over the years?
Well, it's unusual the way it started because it was actually an initiative of local government. It was actually what was then the St Kilda City Council that began this event. In fact, it's a publicly owned event. It's not run by a board. It's actually financed through the council, and we also get funding from Screen Australia and Film Victoria. But it started at a time when there were short films being made, but the problem was not getting the films made, but getting them exhibited. And it was an attempt, I guess, just to give films a showcase so that filmmakers would be able to see their work on the big screen and with audiences watching them, and then that way they'd learn a bit about how their films are working. Quite often if you make a film, the first thing you do is you have a cast and crew screening, and you invite your relatives and your friends, and they all tell you how great it is, and then when later on the results are not so beneficial, you wonder, well, gee, the first night we screened it, everyone loved it. Well, I think when you show a film at a film festival, you're showing to an audience that's interested in films, but they're very dispassionate. They don't know you. They just look at the work. And that's really important for a filmmaker to get that kind of feedback. And also, career-wise, it's a great help because there's a circuit of film festivals and they provide the oxygen, because if you've made a masterpiece and it's sitting on a shelf, may as well not have been made.
Definitely. So how has that changed from then, trying to get films exhibited, through to now when it's quite a big event?
Well, the major change now is that it's easier than ever to make a film. It's still difficult to get them shown. With the kind of equipment that's around now, you can make a very professional looking film for a very modest amount of money. But I always say the challenge is you've got to come up with an original concept. Otherwise, you're just repeating what's already been done. You're mimicking. You're not leading trends. You're following trends. And as you know, we live in a very cluttered media landscape. Everyone's got lots of entertainment options they didn't once have, but a lot of us are time poor. So as filmmakers, you've got to cease that creative challenge and take audiences somewhere they haven't been before. And it doesn't matter if the idea is vaguely formulated or if it's technically crude. In fact, that's very important because lots of filmmakers say, well, I've never been to film school, I haven't got access to great equipment. It doesn't matter. What's important is the idea shakes up the audience.
Right. That's fantastic advice to have, absolutely.
I've learnt this through sheer experience. I've seen films that have come out of film schools that technically are fantastic, shot on 35mm film with professional actors, and then I've seen a film from some Institute of Technology or basically guys coming in off the street. I've seen great documentaries about a girl with a pet rabbit, kids sniffing glue. They're quite crude, rough and raw, but they excite your imagination, and that's what it's all about.
The story's impactful. So with that being said, how can people actually enter into the festival itself? What are the prerequisites to actually be involved?
Oh, it's relatively easy. If you're going to enter into the festival, there are no hindrances to what kind of genre it is. Unlike some festivals, we're not strictly looking for comedies. It can be any genre, it can be a documentary, it can be experimental, and our definition of short film is something up to about half an hour in length. And I always offer the advice, if you really want to make an impact, they are short films. If you think you're making a 10-minute film, why not go for 5?
Yeah, make it really punchy.
Well, there's a reason behind this. If you want to exploit your film, now when I say exploit, that's not in a bad sense. To exploit just means to make the best use of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier if you make a short film and you get them screened on all sorts of digital platforms, get them onto airplanes or whatever.
Yeah.
If you've made a really long film that's 25 minutes, it's a lot harder than if you've made a film that's 5 minutes or under.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. When it comes to this festival and how it's all kind of started and how it's grown and developed over the years, now that it's a part of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and things like that, what is this success owed to, do you think?
Oh, it's a difficult question to answer in a short period of time, but it goes back to the 70s when the Australian film industry awoke after decades of hibernation. And in the 1970s and the 1980s, there's a whole new generation of filmmakers basically took over the world. Fred Skepsey, Gillian Armstrong, people like this had huge international success. Now, it's very difficult if you go down the Jam Factory, even when you're watching a Hollywood film, to see a film that hasn't got an Australian, either as the DP or the editor or working behind the scenes. Australia has made huge inroads into the international film scene. Of course, we all know the actors who are very big. Fast Furious 7 is kind of breaking box office records around the world. That's directed by James Wan, who went to RMIT, and he had lots of films in the St Kilda Film Festival 10 or 12 years ago.
That's fantastic. Well, then leading from there, when it comes to this gap between the Australian and the international market, thankfully this festival actually kind of bridges that gap together, which is wonderful. But how can we try and continue to diminish this gap between the Australian and the international market?
Well, I think on a personal level, if you're filmmakers who've come up with ideas and are making their first steps into the water and producing films, learn your craft, because short films are the ideal area in which to make mistakes and fall over and make a complete hash of things, because no one's going to care. And you're developing your craft. If you somehow fluke a feature film and you get that wrong, you'll never be invited back. So filmmakers have got to pay their dues. There's no such thing as winning Tats Lotto and being an overnight success. And I always laugh when I read about filmmakers who are overnight successes, because inevitably you can trace their career back 10 or 12 years, making short films, learning their craft skills. And in the short film arena, you start to learn where your strengths are. You might make a drama and you find that there's lots of laughs in it. And say, oh, gee, I'm not sure if I like that because it's meant to be a dramatic film. People are laughing. As long as they're laughing with you and not at you. Again, this is you can learn a lot in a film school. You can learn a lot from reading books. You can learn a lot from working with crews. You learn the most from sitting in an audience, because ultimately they decide how film works. And providing you're not too egotistical, you'll learn from that, and then you'll capitalise on those strengths.
Definitely.
It sort of almost happens in a subconscious way.
Yeah. Wow. So with that as well, do you feel that any of the films that have been fortunate enough to win over the years have influenced the wider community in any way?
Oh, definitely. One of our big success stories is Kenny, which Clayton Jacobson made, and he ended that as a short film, and it won Best Comedy, and then he expanded into a feature. And Kenny is a funny film because it's very Melbourne oriented. It's a funny film because it's also in the mockumentary genre, and a lot of the films we get entered in our festival are in that kind of mockumentary, handheld camera, interviewee going out in the street.
It's very popular.
Very popular, but the problem is it's been done to death. And it's been happening for the last 10 years. So you've got to kind of be aware of those kind of trends. They have a certain kind of shelf life. But he revitalised that kind of genre. I think sometimes there are only so many genres that people respond to. They're pretty basic. And they say that in life there's nothing original, just judicious imitation. So when you go out and make a genre film, whether it say be horror or comedy, you kind of do a slight tweak. And you come up with new variations on old ideas, and rather than trying to think of something totally unique.
Well, instead of like reinventing the wheel, like repainting it, I guess
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
say instead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always have the view that if you had a Geiger counter from comedy to drama, it's like on this end you got comedy, on that end you got drama. It's not, the meter doesn't go from comedy to drama.
Yeah.
It's actually somewhere in the middle. So a film that's funny, like it only has to shift a bit, and then it becomes like a very grim drama.
Definitely.
And that's where films become really interesting, especially the kind of Quentin Tarantino films,
Yes.
which talk about violence and so on, but they do it in a comic style.
Definitely. And like you're saying before, how it impacts the audience and
Yeah.
grabs their attention.
Yeah. But the audience have got the final say in this.
And finally, when it comes to the Australian films themselves, where do you feel the Australian film market is headed in the future?
Australian films are in pretty good shape at the moment, certainly as far as short films go. There are lots of really outstanding talents. Maybe some of our talents are a bit precocious. They haven't got enough life experiences, and part of life experience is not just going out digging ditches and experiencing life in that way. For creative people, for filmmakers, it's about rejection. And learning from that. And oh God, I didn't get in that festival. Oh, I got in the festival. I didn't win a prize. Oh, I was the runner-up. I was this. I was that. Life experience is I think so important in filmmaking. And again, this is something I've learned firsthand. The films that have really impressed me are films that have a personal voice, and where I'm taken into someone's world. And maybe you were to make a short film, and so I'll make a film about my family, but they're pretty boring. I don't know anything about your family, but the point is, if you were to do that, I would probably find it interesting because your family is exotic to me. You know them, you're used to them, to take them for granted. And also, when filmmakers start off, I say, well, listen, rather than hire actors and do a dramatic film, why not just go out and film something happening in your neighbourhood? Because whatever those experiences are, it's unique to you, and you've learned it firsthand. Share it with an audience.
Yeah.
And then from there, you gradually find your feet and learn how to develop your skills.
That's fantastic. Paul, it's been just a delight learning from you today and talking about all these things, and of course trying to repaint the wheel rather than reinventing it. So thank you for your time today.
Well, thanks again for your interest and enthusiasm, and long live Channel 31.